find there to be a little bit of an apocalyptic implication of that pendulum test. This isn't the first time I've looked at it, but this first time I've really like thought about it critically. I was listening to you guys talk about it and researching it. Any type of force like this exerted on an order of magnitude, I mean, that's the type of stuff you see in like the movies, like some gravitational displacement. Like this is what's talked about in this nova cycle apocalypse as well. You have an upset of the normal gravitational dispersion.
What field of tradition is that biblical or what tradition system?
It's spun through it's applied to the biblical narrative to some extent, but it's just a cyclical flood aspect.
You said nova cycle? Who's that related to?
That's Doug Vaught. It's from the Diehold Foundation. He shows the nova causing a gravitational displacement that causes the oceans to slosh across the continents. So this is almost evidence for that. This is showing slight gravitational anomaly. Right? If you look at it, well, I'm kind of overstepping because I'm looking at it through the filter of like some of the like Eric Dollard gravitational expressions, but this is a finite, ever-pressing boundary on the outside of electrical fields. It's actually constantly trying to come in and fill that space. That's why electricity appears to be doing work. It's actually just taking up space that needs to be filled back in. We're seeing a similar effect of this, where the field variation with the moon, that slight variation, we're seeing measurable gravitational anomalies as an expression of that. Whatever the vector overlap, or you could probably actually map that with Steinmetz equations. The slight change in the relationship between the moon and the Earth, you would have also with that slight changes in gravity.
Well, I think speaking for everybody, that if you're bringing this up, it's a great opportunity for all of us to learn from you, going on a bit of like an extended explanation. But the things you're mentioning, right? I don't like. It can't be a conversation because none of us know anything about it. Not that you shouldn't bring it up. It's just that the only way this is going to go down is you basically teaching us something, because none of us know about it. So we can't be like, oh, here's my take on the nova, yada yada thing. You know what I mean?
Well, luckily, I created the Rosetta Stone of electrophysics.
Absolute bullshit. It has nothing to do with the rotation of the Earth.
It has nothing to do with the rotation of the Earth? What doesn't?
Absolute bullshit. It has nothing to do with the rotation of the Earth.
Who are you even refuting?
Absolute bullshit. It has nothing to do with the rotation of the Earth.
What? Just define it.
Yeah. What does it refer to when you?
It's midget porn.
Perfect
example.
You got you, didn't he?
I do have a short and sweet presentation if you guys want to check in a little bit. I'm just going to define some terms. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. It might shine some light on especially some of the Eric Dollard stuff we've been talking about in here. I've just got a couple slides. I'll try to make it short and sweet since I don't totally take over the chat for it. The goal of this is just to show like an overlap with basically like all of the etheric terms, like etheric physics, how those terms actually are just synonyms. They overlap with Steinmetz work, which is the foundation for our modern world. So I've kind of pointed it out as like the illusion of two sciences here. So you have the mathematical engineers. These are pioneers like Steinmetz, who built the modern electrical grid. And because electricity is invisible, they mapped its behavior using complex algebraic quantities.
Right.
So isolating
abstractions, if you will.
Yeah, like isolating variables like impedance, reactance, and flux. So his mathematical equations are real and applied, but they represent theoretical phenomena. And I wanted to just highlight that aspect. So, and on this other side,
interactions, right? Interactions of invisible things that we only investigate through their effect on visible things.
Yes. And in this case, we can I'll correlate that with a wire in a moment, but the etheric physicists, theorists like Tesla and Walter Russell, they've described electricity visually and mechanically. So this is a totally different view than like a mathematician would look at it, or even like, right, this is actually what separates this from being some sort of like a story you'd hear about, right? Versus, being an applied mathematical concept. They're not talking even in that language, right? These people are looking at effects and systems. They're almost, stepping way ahead of where math could be because they're not trying to write the language and everything in it. So they spoke of a universal fluid describing forces as strains, elasticity, and varying pressure in a physical medium. In the 4th century, these dialects have divided physics, I believe, but they are describing the exact same engine. So the mathematics of a medium, ether physics terms are not abstract magic. Like I like that choice of words there because it's like, you hear all these terms of ether and it's like, it sounds like just some magical made up concept, but they're actually rigorous physical vocabulary for the exact phenomena Charles Steinmetz has quantified in his alternating current equations. So we can actually see a visual representation in an applied science of some of these same terms, and their definition fits perfectly. So both paradigms described an incomprehensible elastic medium under multi-dimensional spatial stress. The math calculates the effect. The ether explains the cause. So, and here's the slide I'd stop at right now. It's the master translation matrix, and this shows, you've got your L variable, inductance, self-induction. I don't know how to pronounce this, like a quasi-prime, magnetic flux. This is the etheric whirls, micro helices, and motion. And this diagram kind of lines up over here on the left and the right. And capacitance is the elasticity, dielectric displacement. Complex impedance is the resistance to spatial orientation.
I think you should be flexing a little harder on everybody as you present this. If you stand behind it, this is something I believe no one's ever been shown. And if you think this is like a really accurate graphic, you really should take the opportunity to be like, hey guys, you ever seen it put this way, motherfuckers? Look at this, I got to show. Honestly, man, if the graphic currently on screen is accurate, you should honestly be saying, hey motherfucker, let me solve something for you that none of you have put the effort into outlining as specific as I just have done so clearly in this graphic. That's only if you stand by it.
I mean, I do, and I can start to correlate this here. So, because it gets really complicated, the deeper in the slides, but the concept here is so powerful. Like this general master translation matrix, like we can actually go down the line and see how translating flux or translating flux, like motion in the medium, which is the physical boundary capturing the medium, which is the turns of the wire, and the current of droplets transferred between the masses along the wire. He can calculate. He figured out the calculation for that. Right, the volume, the velocity of the etheric wind displaced by the wire. This is a correlation with the same text. So, like, you can actually go and find, in Walter Russell's work, and in William Lind's book for Tesla's patents, where they're showing these exact same phenomena in the same context, right? So this is an applied equation to the language they were using. Right? It's a direct correlation. We get the same thing with inductance and etheric inertia. So this term etheric inertia is actually just inductance. Steinmetz mathematically defines self-induction as the property where current lags the electromotive force. J.J. Thomson and William Line define this as electromagnetic momentum, the resistance of the omni to a change in momentum. And omni is interplaceable with ether. So and there's other, what would you call that? Synonyms like omni, ether, what's another 0 point, all that stuff. It's kind of this.
My opinion.
Quantum foam.
Yeah, quantum foam. That's a huge one because that's the one Salvador Pais uses. He uses a quantum variation
God's
name like
mind. God's brain matter.
Yeah, Doug Vaught calls it the dihole, the information source. Yeah, the flow of information. But it goes on, like energy storage, like tension in the void. This is the idea of capacitance. Potential energy is an elastic energy of expansion, a straining energy, a compressed ring. Right, and here's his equations on the electric circuit does no work. And I love this claim. The electric circuit does no work. The mechanical work of moving an armature is done entirely by the stored magnetic energy in the surrounding space. This is from Steinmetz. So, on one side of it, you can say, well, these physics guys are like exaggerating. Well, Steinmetz is like saying this right here, that there's an effect from the surrounding space that's actually realigning this stuff. There's the actual thing we're trying to move along the wire is not doing it.
Hey, so, good on you right there, Tank. You did it naturally. My advice to you, because I know your approach to research and providing graphics, and as great as they are, the missing ingredient is you being able to put it in your own words in a way that, you got to know your audience, whether it's comedy or being a teacher in a 5th grade, 6th grade, Discord, whatever classroom. The key is to have the information and the quotes, which you have the quotes right there available. And then the last part of it is understanding the room you're talking to and putting it in your own stylized word self to like make it understandable to the room you're talking to.
I am really trying to simplify because I want to be trying to sound like I understand, or we all can just understand these equations right here instantly, right? Like, so. Right.
It's correct stuff. It's just that most people are going to need to take this at going to have to play this back at like a 0.25 speed if they're going to like absorb it as it's presented. So you have to like present it in their words with the quotes and then say, if you didn't get that, let me put it in terms you will understand in like basically 60 seconds of this and then 60 seconds coming from me like translation wise. Because most people just aren't ready to absorb these terminologies and how like concise and direct, like the speed, the density of the information is overwhelming.
It's blowing my mind. I guess I'm in this mindset of like, it's like, holy crap, look at this. So yeah, that's a good orientation.
Like, would you be open to me asking, can anyone explain anything they've gathered so far? Like that Rosetta Stone you gave, that translation between mainstream terminology and let's say old school Ether terminology or like framework. We moved on from that Rosetta Stone graphic, and I don't think anyone actually has that memorized at all. It's just you have so much to share, but no one even retained anything from that very, very valuable graphic that you created yourself. It is a Rosetta Stone, but we're gonna need like an hour focused on perhaps that one single image before we move on to the next. And obviously, no one's signing up for that tonight. That's the nature of Discord. We're here to hang out, have a good time, debate, fast-paced stuff. That's why you need to like make a YouTube video about this, right? Discord isn't actually a place where people teach each other things in depth. I realize YouTube is where people go to learn things in depth or articles.
Yeah,
Discord is more like hanging out.
Well, actually, you could. No. I want this to be a learning platform. That's why I
That's why I put videos out that do like reviews, like group review. I know it's not something I've done in a while, but it is an agenda of mine to help people get out like a full perspective. So if perhaps you did have a presentation or like a specific argument or something you want to support or elaborate on, I would make the time to schedule that with you and like either do a presentation or create a video, to put on the page. So that is an agenda of mine.
Well, I guess real quick though, I can make this way lighter. I can real quick.
$5 to just dissect that Rosetta Stone that you developed. I'll give you $5 right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's
if you
the whole.
want to go into a private room with me and just break that down, because I think what you developed right there is something we all deserve and have been waiting for, and it deserves attention for those who are willing to pay that amount of attention.
Yeah,
look at that.
I'm not.
Look at that graphic.
I'm not trying to overhype this, guys, but I'm telling you, this is insane for me to have stumbled upon this. This is because I always looked at it like these words had no overlap, but this right here is actually showing, the equations we have from Steinmetz is the variables he chose are exactly a reflection of Tesla's work and some of the language they were using, like etheric inertia, etheric whirls, elasticity, and resistance to spatial orientation. And these
you've created a bridge, as you called it, a Rosetta Stone. There's obviously the old school way of describing electrical phenomena, and as Steinmetz mentioned in his most famous book, Impulses, whatever and whatever. Right? Do you know the name of it? Charges, impulses, and
waves.
Some other, and yeah, charges, waves, and impulses. Right? He himself, in his most famous book, says the terminology I use is being misused by my peers. I see the world already misusing the original system of language. You describe electricity and how it works, and so this right here. I mean, what a valuable graphic you've developed here. By the way, Tank made this, guys. All the graphics you're seeing, Tank made these, and I just want everyone to know that. And it's bridging a gap that no one's ever made so clear cut and in your face. Like, look at it. Everyone take a screenshot, please, of what Tank is sharing. I'm sorry, man. I'm fanboying out over what you've done.
I wish Dyslow would have stayed. I really wanted to show him, but I sent him the picture. So, but yeah, each of these graphics, so like this legend, basically just depicts, and based on what Funny just said, to make it a little clearer, each of these sections, each of these bars, each of these variables, I went ahead and made a graphic representing each of these effects. So 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, and so you can see one of them is just the wraps on a wire. One of them is actually the inertia and momentum. This is the speed of the current along the wire. And we have the medium defined in this object here, kind of defined with the same rotate. The graphic could have been better there, but that's the core of this rod on this graphic.
In between each of these graphics, right? You show one of these, and then you don't move on to the next graphic. You cut to a second graphic of you, or just cut to you on a face cam, basically summarizing it and distilling it into like everyday parlance. You know what I mean? You can't go from one graphic straight to the next. You got to do this intermediate thing where you put it in layman's terms, basically. If you want, basically, people who don't know about this to, after you show it to them, know about it. It's just too dense for basically everyone to go from one graphic to the next.
Yeah, because I guess you already have to know like a decent amount of electricity and all that stuff. But yeah, each graphic represents one of these variables, and this whole presentation is just to show that this language is a common denominator with technology we know and already have applied in our world. It's just this other dimension of understanding there actually could be some of these fictitious forces that are already represented here by Steinmetz equations that have yet to be applied. So, yeah, and I guess I can go to the end. I like this graphic a lot. The two directions of motion, and it shows Russell's law. This is Walter Russell. Electricity and magnetism are not separate substances. They're different dimensions of motion. So electricity is the centripetal force of gravitation charging, and magnetism is the centrifugal force of radiation dissipating. So if you've ever heard anybody present the argument to you, everything is just pressures, things like that, and that doesn't seem to fit this idea of mainstream model. It also seems delusional. This actually is a perfect diagram for that. It's a good way to imagine what they're actually referencing.
Most people think that magnetism is a what do you call it in UFOs? A tractor beam, right? Most people think of the field around a magnet as some sort of tractor beam. Now they never take a minute to think about. Wait a sec, it's some sort of thing that reaches out and has a tugging, pulling force. Well, there's no such thing as a pulling force. Do you agree?
Yeah. Well,
There's literally no such thing. A vacuum does not suck. A tractor beam does not pull. Magnets do not attract. Now, don't give me the bullshit like, oh, yeah, it pulled a piece of iron towards it, right? But what is really going on, what I'm trying to communicate, right, is that there is no such thing as a physical force of attraction. There is only spreading out in a more and more thinning way that creates a basically hole for things to fall into. That's at least that's my opinion. There's no such thing as an attractive force. There's only expansive forces that create null pressure zones for other things to fall into to fill the space that they're making a pocket of availability.
I have a question. Thanks, Fundy. Tank, if you don't mind, could you break down the last things you said? It was about magnetism. Could you break down it again real quick? So there's ether. Okay, so I'm not putting words in your mouth. Right? I'm asking the question. I'm just speaking from my own knowledge. There's the ether, which I'm just gonna say ether. I don't want to explain any more than that. And then, so I know I asked you to do the magnetism, but I know dielectrics directly involved. I joined like 5 minutes ago, so I may have missed it. I apologize. Just trying to be honest. Could you real quick in your method just where do we go from ether, and then something like the ether is like under tension is like dielectricity, like a spring going back. Can you explain the magnetism part again, like in your own way?
Can you ask this question specifically? That was a jumble of words.
Sorry. Well, before I do that, Tank, did you get that, or should I do what Fundy asked?
I mean, I kind of like clarify, just specify, because I want to go into the magnetism and how to explain through this.
I'll listen. I'll listen. Keep move forward, and then I'll ask again. I appreciate that.
Do you want me to give you a quick little overview? 2 seconds. So like, basically,
yeah, he said he just joined, so it's probably worth for his sake to go
it's
over
a pretty
something.
short. Yeah, and he knows more than most people. So this is just the Rosetta Stone of electrophysics. So I'm attempting to show how the language that Steinmetz was using is actually just the same language the language Steinmetz is using are explanations for the same effects that the etheric physicists were seeing. So theorists like Tesla and Walter Russell, described electricity visually and mechanically, and then mathematicians explain that, like Steinmetz, through algebraic quantities. And even even inside these algebraic quantities, these were based on kind of like fictitious variables, right? Things they can't see because electricity itself is invisible.
Steinmetz was basically Tesla's mentor. They were side by side. Tesla invented stuff or tried to invent stuff, and Steinmetz basically reviewed his inventions and made them even more efficient. So they're not separate in time or ideology or anything. Tesla and Steinmetz were basically brothers working on the same invention in the same laboratory with each other.
Oh shit, that's nice. That's cool.
Yeah. So, and I just pointed out, ether physics terms are not abstract magic. They're correlative with what we see with Steinmetz, and that's applied mathematics. And they both refer to an elastic medium under multi-dimensional spatial stress. The math calculates the effect, and the ether explains the cause. And then I gave kind of a translation matrix here. This is the variables. Yeah, Steinmetz. These are his variables, and that's the etheric language.
He wasn't here for this graphic. Yeah, you said holy shit when you saw this graphic. You weren't here for this earlier, huh?
Yeah, it's sick.
Yeah, I know I'm talking a lot, guys. I apologize. I'm just
so you guys.
The work Tank has done, and this graphic he's produced right here, if it is accurate, I haven't analyzed it myself, but if this graphic is accurate, this is something we've all deserved for a long time now. And thank you, Tank, for giving us something that it's about time. You know what I mean? About time someone created this graphic.
What's crazy is you remember, you saw my message. I thanked you for giving me the tool. This is sick. So basically this shows all the variables and how they correlate with the language. And then I went through here and showed the graphics. I correlated the equation with the actual, right? So you got the physical boundary capturing the medium. And this is the turns of the wire, right? And the volume and the velocity of the etheric wind displaced by the wire. This is the change in the magnetic flux. So this is the equivocal equation. If you ever see it, you're reading an old etheric textbook, if you find one, and you hear that language, you can literally just think of Steinmetz equation and you can apply it. You can see it physically. And then same with inductance and etheric inertia. And this is actually just what they call, the volts. Oh no, sorry, I'm getting mixed up. Steinmetz mathematically defines self-induction as the property where current lags the electromotive force. So this is just like the combination of electromagnetic forces on the wire. And and they say this is the etheric reality, right? This is defined as the electromagnetic momentum, the resistance of the omni, the ether, to a change in momentum. So when we look at it through, like, I guess I can explain this to you, Gatekeeper, because you've seen Eric Dollar's stuff. When he explains this constant surrounding pressure that closes in, when he gets into his deeper explanations on it, this is exactly what he's pointing out. The resistance of the omni or ether to a change in momentum. It's this surrounding force, and we can look at electricity, the phenomena of electricity traveling on a wire. We can look at that as something that's just burrowing basically through this medium. It's creating it's taking up space of the medium. That's why it has this ability to act like a spring almost and load up with capacitance. Because once you give it a place to leave, when you connect a capacitor, right, that space is rushed to it leaves, and that space is the omni or the ether rushes to fill that space. So it's one of the best examples I think of what he tries to teach is really the effect of gravity and how it's closely linked to electromagnetism. And I went way deeper on that slide, but the energy storage tension in the void. So this is capacitance, right? This is basically like your pulling a blank, like a bit like a why can't I think
Like
of
a
it?
bitch.
What?
Nothing. I was just trying to be funny.
Okay,
It's midget porn.
it's major porn. Okay, but this is basically just like a capacitor. I said it and then kind of got lost. Okay, so the mechanical work of moving an armature is done entirely by the stored magnetic energy in the surrounding space. So he points out, or this is correlative with the idea that potential energy is an elastic energy of expansion, a straining energy, a compressed spring, and that's Russell's cosmology. So like I kind of was able to see this common denominator in a couple different sources that speak of etheric physics. Energy is not created in the wire. It is temporarily stored as mechanical tension in the surrounding etheric medium, waiting to leap back to its inert state.
That's the loss of energy when it does that, right? That's the loss of it. That's what would that be? When the spring unwinds back to counter space.
Energy is not created. It's temporarily stored as mechanical tension.
Spring unwinding back to counter space. That would be.
Think about it like this,
right?
Oh, let me ask a question actually, real quick. So like when I pull a vacuum on a box, the reason that there's this like pulling, it's just the spring has been stretched out, and there's just an immense amount of tension, right? Because you pulled out all the matter, and it's trying to fill that space, so the spring gets pulled back in when you let go, and so then that's what the vacuum is. It's a spring of ether.
Literally, and it's omnidirectional forces. So as soon as like anything, yeah, it'll automatically try to fill it if there's something to fill it with. And if there's nothing to fill it gets
this is a great tool, man. I'm actually so I'm excited that, I mean, even just barely, you're already kind of making use of it. That's cool.
It's overpowered, I think. Like I'm
just know
ahead of my sprint.
Everything, all of these tools, man, are going to be overpowered at first. So like if you're really trying to push the envelope, now's the time, because they're going to neuter it down the road. That's what they always do.
It's a good warning.
I feel like AI is about to have a bigger change in humanity than like all of our inventions thus far. Fucking engines, computers, microchips. It's just AI just gonna smart apps, phones, not apps, phones. Not saying it's gonna change it in a better or worse end, but dude, this AI thing is fucking crazy, dude. It's just so crazy, man.
It really is, dude. It's like the resonant. What's that word?
It's like, it's so good. You got to be careful, like even for your own sake when you're using it. It's so good. You could turn off your mind a portion. You could literally make numb in terms of color energy output and those scans they do in your brain. You could turn off places that are fucking red and make them not red and just gray, because you turn your shit off in your mind because the AI does the thinking for you. It's that good. You gotta like do some. I'm not saying to anyone, I'm just saying like for me, you gotta find your own middle ground, dude. Because one person's middle ground is not going to be your middle ground. So
yeah. One way to, I don't know, guys, because the imagery is like kind of impressive, right? What sort of, okay, this should be pretty easy, man. See each of those claims, the physics, the engineering, Steinmetz, the translation. I mean, it's drawing that information from particular articles that you've uploaded, like source documentation, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If you can, put links there. Tell it to make sure that it citates it. So this paper, this page, this paragraph, get it to do a formal citation so you can track what it's actually saying about each one of these claims. Because I mean, the AI has a propensity to hallucinate. If you want it to if you literally ask it to like go out and find all of the comparable aspects to these works, that's its prerogative, right? It's not. I know you've asked it to seek out the differences as well. I'd just be concerning that it's like it's trying to show you something because that's what you've asked it to do. It's like a genie in a bottle, essentially.
I wouldn't be
great advice, Riggs. I was going to give Tank that same advice you hadn't before I was going to later tonight, and it would make the graphics even more like dummy proof, I suppose, right? Dummy proof. Just that, hey, if you don't like the graphics, here's basically where exactly all the text in the graphics are sourced from. So check it out yourself.
All right, let's focus on what we do have though, because it's good and it's nice, and there's always a steep road of improvement based on your standards. So everyone, what they're saying is correct.
Yeah, and I will explain my experience a little bit on that since it was brought up. This is maybe version 13.2, and I went up 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. I did some crazy shit to get these kind of concentrated. But I did realize I wasted a lot of time doing that because I found how to like trick the prompting to get it way more organized. I was able to, so I created a prompt with LM to target the information I wanted, and I'd already prompted it up to a certain point with, actually like an hour plus of trying to hone in on how these equations map, trying to actually ask it specifically and to check them. And then I used that outsourcing. I said, refer to my conversation with you and give me a prompt to turn this into a slideshow or an infographic. And then I took that and put it into Gemini and tried to concentrate it. And you can use Gemini to reference like your LM. And I said specifically to only use equations from Steinmetz and only the language from the etheric sources. And there were a couple of other things I had to do to try to hone it because it did make up so many crazy delusional, like ridiculous ones. And this one does have some ones in it that are a little bit weird if you pay attention, like the wording and the way it puts the graph. But it's very accurate with the equations and the labels.
Do you I think that's probably one thing you said just there probably went over a lot of people's heads. Just if you want, the decision's on you, man. Do you want to tell people about Notebook? I think
Yeah,
I mean, you decide.
Kinda. Do you guys want to know about it? Like, because you guys could all literally do this level of content in a day.
I tried telling them about it last week, and you were the only one who took it and ran with it.
Yeah, and I'd heard about it before, and I was like, okay, that shit's got to be good. It's unbelievably good.
Apparently not, man. Moving on.
But yeah, this slide, since we're just having fun, this slide is insane. Like, this actually is one of the ones that I would say is, it's the close to the cap on the whole slide, and it kind of I think it could be delusional, but it also could be legit here. The 0-point radiation point, it points out that Steinmetz instability is the mathematical threshold where a system breaks equilibrium, and it interacts dynamically with the background etheric radiation. So he actually accounts for this. He has a variable in his equations that are this, it takes into account this nonlinear threshold of where the system breaks equilibrium. So like in certain circuits like arcs, an increase in current decreases voltage consumption, leading to runaway instability and transients. And he expresses this with the DEI over DI is greater than 0 in parentheses. The system acts non-linearly. So he points this out specifically in his equations that it acts non-linearly. So this is the ubiquitous 0-point radius. This is the ZPR language that's used in the in Lynn's Aether physics book, and that's the book that Amy Eskridge referenced, that girl that got killed. And she says this reference is a nonlinear dipole or unstable system can absorb energy from the ZPR spectrum. So this is the same correlation with Tesla's work, which I found when I questioned this a bunch of my own. The Hutchinson's effect and Tesla, they're literally they're using an AC-DC magnetic field, finding an overlap point with those fields, and then they're putting a vacuum tube, a pulsating instability mechanism against that field. And by tuning the cycles of the AC, they're just creating instability. Hutchinson's doing it with knobs, like it's like a digital audio workstation basically. And Tesla was actually doing it with, God only knows. He didn't have any math. I don't know what the hell that guy was doing. With his mind. He says in his biographies he's mapping it with his mind. Can you imagine? To me, this seriously like fits so much. It fits with Salvador Pais's patents. He shows how to do it with like solid state modern circuitry equipment. How to create a DC field, a standing AC field with 60 cycles, and how to create a rhythmic pulse to create disturbance in the interaction and the overlap of those two fields. He even invokes like the Kashmir effect and other things to try to create a consistent barrier effect. This shit is crazy. It's like literal freaking, what is that? Energy field? Energize. Shields, energize.
Yeah. Conceptual math claimed to be physics.
Electricity is the pressure. Impedance is the medium's resistance. Equilibrium is the goal.
Which seems very familiar. How they tried to push abstract math, conceptual ideas of mathematics, and declare them as physical.
Just make sure you say impedance next time, not impotence. It's
fair enough.
A different problem.
Impedance.
He needs some milk.
So, in finalization, just to wrap this up, the mystic sounding ether is not a fringe theory. It is the physical reality that powers the modern grid. Charles Steinmetz mapped its mathematical shadow. The ether theorist mapped its mechanical gears. To master electrophysics, we must speak both languages, calculating the medium with the rigor of an engineer while visualizing its flow with the intuition of a physicist. Let's go! All right, it's over.
Wait. Yeah, so basically what I said, conceptual math declared to be physics, which implies physical. That's the same conundrum as the gravity situation. It's your 4D space-time. That's conceptual mathematics declared to be physical. When are you guys not going to correlate the two? Your ether is gravity